Mortal followers of the Plague God, rejoice, for the March of the Death Guard has finally come to the channel.
Anvil of War! Army focus! Death God!
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Anvil of War. Today, we're going to be showcasing my long-awaited Death Guard. I'm super excited to showcase this army to you guys, as this was my army kind of launching myself into 8th edition. I picked up the Dark Imperium box set in June 2017. Has it already been that long? And included in it was a couple Plague Marines, and you had some Poxwalkers, and this kind of formed the core of my budding Death Guard army. The main man, Typhus, who I had a model from 7th edition. Excitedly moving into 8th edition, I thought all these things, but in the end I ended up collecting a bunch of new models and painting everything as I go. So these guys have kind of been my journey into 8th edition and the army that has kind of been with me all along. As you can see in the whole army, I went very Poxwalker heavy. I really wanted a Horde army, and whoever thought Death Guard was going to be a Horde army? So as you can see in the full army shot, we got 20 units, or 24 units of 20 Poxwalkers, each of them very different. I wanted to kind of do this for an easy visual style for when you play against it, and for myself when I go to play this army, I'm not guessing which models are in which unit. So kind of where my Death Guard army started was actually with one miniature, that being Typhus the Traveler. I seriously love this guy. I loved his lore. I love the way he kind of looks like a Grim Reaper Terminator that's kind of like super rusted and overgrown. And in 7th edition, I had started collecting Death Guard with Plague Zombies and Typhus. So they were kind of my only real Death Guard units. And back then I had just 20 zombies and Typhus, and sometimes he'd be in a list. I think it was Traitor Legions where they finally got rules, but I maybe got 4 games out of that book before the turn of 8th edition. So he was kind of the driving force in me starting a Nurgle collection, because I always kind of liked Nurgle. I was drawn to the demonic side of Nurgle. So Typhus was our stepping stone in getting into the collection. The Dark Imperium box set just furthered that stepping stone, and it's like now that I have Plague Marines and I have Poxwalkers, and Poxwalkers synergize really well with Typhus. So knowing that Poxwalkers and Typhus went well together, that was kind of the starting point of this whole Death Guard army. So talking about kind of the artistic inspirations of the army, I was pretty drawn into just the classic Death Guard look with the green armor. I didn't really have anything with my Khorne armies that allowed me to paint green. So this was kind of a different color variant for me to move into. And I liked the way Typhus looked with his green armor, so I always kind of wanted to match to the guy who is most central to the army itself. You'll notice on some of my Marines, or not Marines, but the Deathshroud Terminators or the Malignant Plague Caster, a lot of them have Horus Heresy era kind of color schemes with the tan armor with the green shoulder pauldrons. I wanted those to be on like the guys who have been around the block for a really long time in the army, to kind of note them as special characters that, you know, hold some weight in terms of just like the lore with the army. The zombies themselves are all different. I've done this for a visual for both myself and my opponent. It's an easier army to play against when you can tell the different zombie units, because they are large units of 20. Easier to play for myself because I'm not guessing which models are in which unit, and it's a little nicer for my opponent too when they can kind of pick it out visually. And they're all kind of converted and there's different looks, so it's kind of fun to play against. So if you want to see how I kind of converted some Orc Boys into Poxwalkers and kind of made my zombies a little bit different, there's going to be a little video and a link at the end of this video if you want to kind of see what I did in terms of making them look very Nurgle. Okay, so as you can see in front of me, I got a kind of some of my favorite units from the army that I've both painted, that I play. These are my favorites. These are my MVPs from game to game. The Demon Prince, arguably one of the best Demon Prince variants in the game, in my opinion, just because of the relics and artifacts that he can take with certain spells that the Death Guard have access to. Make him a very powerful character. He's always shone in many games, and this model specifically was a pleasure to paint. I really liked the Forge World Demon Prince. He had the launchers built into his arm, which actually became a weapon in the FAQ recently, which was kind of fun because I didn't have to model that in the end. A couple more of my favorite units, obviously Typhus. He is the reason that we're here today. He is a great model. I've thought a couple times about updating him, but I love the classic pose. I just wish he was metal because the fine cast is not my favorite. Obviously, it's not really a miniature, but Mortarion is a beast. He's a reroll factory. You put him on the table, he's going to do well, or he's going to get shot to pieces because people are so scared of him. So it's one way or another with him. It's hot and cold, but he's a beast, and he's still very much a work in progress. I have so much to still paint on him, but I thought he was painted enough that we could bring him on camera here today and include him in the army focus. I know I've talked a little bit about these guys. We'll leave a link in the video at the end of the video for our plague drones, but I have 3 here on the table today. There's 2 more at home with some different weapons coming up because I wanted to include the heavy blight launchers. But these guys are great. People get very frustrated against them. Obvious reasons, they just are hard to kill. And people get a little upset about that. The last unit I'll kind of talk about is the Lord of Contagion. He's not a unit that you often see in many lists, mainly for the fact that he's not really reliable and he doesn't have a ton of damage, but I find he is the ultimate shock trooper. He's very easy to deep strike because he's just a single model, and you can kind of put him anywhere into the game, and it's just fun to see what he can get himself into. I always kind of maybe get into a narrative inside my head when I include a Lord of Contagion because they're pretty funny to watch just cause havoc. So moving forward, it's a slow, monotonous grind with the Death Guard, mainly because I've painted so many models that it's a very model-heavy army at this point, just with the way I've gone so Poxwalker heavy. Future expansions include the Plagueburst Crawler tanks. I have a couple of them at home now. I'm really looking forward to getting them together because it kind of adds this artillery aspect that my Death Guard list doesn't have a lot of shooting, admittedly. It's all magic and melee. I also have the Blightlord Terminators. They're going to be featured in an upcoming conversion corner because I did have a couple extras that I managed to make into more modern Blightlords, and I really like those models. Other than that, I just have the Blight drones. We got a couple more of them on the way. We got more Poxwalkers, believe it or not, on the way. There's a couple more expansions to this army that I'm looking forward to getting finally finished and just playing games with. So some closing thoughts on my Death Guard army. As I mentioned, these guys have been with me for almost the entirety of 8th edition. They've been through the thick and thin of it all. They've traveled to Adepticon with me. They've played in multiple events. I love this army. And whoever thought Death Guard was going to be a horde army? So I think it's been kind of fun just going so Poxwalker heavy. I'd like to move towards a more elite with my expansions in the future. But I'm really looking forward to getting some games on the channel for you guys at home and watching the Death Guard kind of slog it out with whoever they can face. So stay tuned.
Sponsored by...
And if you guys love all things Nurgle, please like, share, subscribe. Subscribe and share. Just like, subscribe, and share.
This is honestly your kryptonite.
Patience is a virtue of the Death Guard, you know. We always have to wait till about turn 3 before we get to do anything.